So we were discussing about NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty of Nuclear Weapons. As we have mentioned, there are so many articles in NPT which had become for a period of time controversial also. In spite of the fact that they had become controversial, it had largely achieved its objectives. As we have said, it was believed that there would be at least 20-25 nuclear powers by the turn of the century, but it was restricted to only 4 of them, apart from the 5 established nuclear powers. And that is where NPT had succeeded. It had succeeded in stopping the proliferation of nuclear weapons, and it had definitely succeeded. Let us see a little bit more about NPT and also look at what is India's stance regarding NPT. So let us see India and NPT. India and NPT. As all of us know, India has tested its nuclear device for the first time in 1974. The first time in 1974. What was the name? Smiling Buddha. The code name was Smiling Buddha. Again in 1998. Again in 1998, Smiling Buddha. Smiling Buddha. Again in 1998. Right? So India had become a de facto nuclear power, and de jure as well as de facto nuclear power, de jure nuclear power. At this point of time, it is said that India has more than 150 nuclear warheads. India has more than 150 nuclear warheads. 150 nuclear missiles. Next, India is one of the few countries that have no first use policy. India is one of the few countries that have no first use policy. That means we will not use nuclear weapons. No first use policy. Recently we have amended that. What we have said now is that no first use policy against non-nuclear powers. No first use policy against non-nuclear powers. Earlier we had nuclear, no first use policy blanket. That means any country, we will not use our nuclear weapons on our own for the first time. Now we have amended that policy. What we now said is that no first use policy against non-nuclear powers, because India is surrounded by nuclear powers, China and Pakistan. Right? Next, and what is India's stance regarding NPT? India was against NPT, still is against NPT. Why? Because this NPT divided countries around the world into haves and have-nots. It has divided the countries around the world into haves and have-nots. Nuclear haves and nuclear have-nots. And India has argued that there is no ethical basis for this distinction. Ethical basis for this distinction. Right? And India has made it clear that if India did not sign NPT because India did not sign NPT because it is a flawed treaty. It is a flawed treaty. India did not sign NPT because it is a flawed treaty, and not because and not because India is against non-proliferation, and not because India is against non-proliferation. India is against non-proliferation. So what we are saying here is that this is what our Foreign Minister Pranab Mukherjee some time back has said in 2010. He said that India is not signing NPT because the treaty is completely discriminatory in nature. It is a flawed, FLAWED, flawed treaty, and India is always committed to non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. That is what he said. We are definitely in favor of non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, but we do not sign NPT, would not recognize NPT because it is highly discriminatory in nature. It divides the world into nuclear haves and nuclear have-nots, and all the restrictions are imposed only on have-nots. There are no restrictions on haves. They can stockpile their weapons, they can increase the load of their weapons, they can use their nuclear power for all kinds of purposes, and there are no inspections regarding their nuclear facilities. And that is what India has said, and that is what you write. Why NPT is discriminatory? Why NPT is discriminatory? Why NPT is discriminatory? First, there is no ban or restriction on nuclear warheads or nuclear missiles possessed by haves. Nuclear missiles possessed by haves. There is no specific timeline. Second, there is no specific timeline regarding there is no specific timeline regarding reduction in the stockpile of nuclear weapons. Reduction in the stockpile of nuclear weapons by haves. Next, countries like USA have provided nuclear weapons to most of the NATO countries. Nuclear weapons to most of the NATO countries. But there is no action against them. No action against them. Next, no verification of nuclear facilities. No verification of nuclear facilities of nuclear haves. No verification of nuclear facilities of nuclear haves. That means these P5 countries, they can do whatever they want, but there is no verification of their nuclear facilities. On the other hand, only those countries which are opposed to America, they are subjected to this kind of discriminatory treatment. That is the reason why we say that it is highly discriminatory in nature, and that is the reason why India has said that it will not be part of this NPT. Next, in March 2006, both the United States and India, both the USA and India, have decided to restart cooperation on nuclear. Both India and United States have decided to restart cooperation on civilian nuclear technology. Civilian nuclear technology. In March 2006, both India and United States of America have decided to restart their cooperation regarding civilian nuclear technology. As we know the history behind this. In 1998, when India has conducted nuclear tests, India was completely boycotted by rest of the world in terms of giving any kind of nuclear cooperation to India. As you know, U-235 uranium. These are all the material which is not available in India, some of it. And India was not allowed to import this from other countries also. Soviet Russia had supported India, but Soviet Russia also had to follow the international guidelines. India was treated as untouchable during this period. So in 2006, after 1998, in 2006, Manmohan Singh government had moved forward, joined hands with George Bush, United States of America, and they had decided to pursue civilian nuclear cooperation. Ultimately, as we discussed, it led to moving of no confidence motion against Manmohan Singh government, because the communist parties had strongly opposed any kind of cooperation with the United States of America, right? So, what are the important aspects of this agreement, which is important for us from our IR as well as defense point of view? India has committed to classify, as part of this agreement, India has committed to classify 14 of its 22 nuclear power plants. It has decided to classify 14 of its 22 nuclear power plants. 14 of its 22 nuclear power plants for civilian use. For civilian use, India has decided to classify 14 of its civilian nuclear power plants for civilian use, and had placed them under IAEA safeguards. India had decided to place them under IAEA safeguards, right? That means out of 22 nuclear power plants that we have, 14 of them we have allowed IAEA to inspect them regularly, and they are used only for generating electricity. And what is the reason why America was more interested in joining hands with India for a civilian nuclear cooperation? Because countries like France and Germany, they wanted to join hands with India in generating nuclear power, because they realize the fact that India has a huge market and they can make a lot of money by importing the nuclear technology to India. That is when America has said that why should we be behind these countries? Please remember, global geopolitics is mostly decided by economic factors. Till the 1990s, it was mostly the defense and security that decided the global geopolitics, and now it has been dominated by economic, trade, investment factors. So India was about to sign agreements with France and Germany regarding a transfer of nuclear technology. That is when American multinational companies had put a lot of pressure on American government. As we study also, as we studied in our paper 1 also, pressure groups, group model in public policy formulation. These multinational companies had put a lot of pressure on American government to remove nuclear apartheid as far as India is concerned, and India was allowed to import this nuclear technology for civilian purposes. This is one of the major achievements of Manmohan Singh government. And on the other hand, India also had made concessions. Out of 22 nuclear power plants, India has said that 14 of them would be made available for IAEA inspections. So it's a win-win situation. India also can get nuclear technology, achieve nuclear technology. But again, as we study these things later as part of disaster management also, there is some problem with this. In spite of the fact that India has signed that civil nuclear agreements with America, there were a lot of problems in implementation. We'll discuss them as part of our disaster management. Why? Because all these questions were asked in our Indian administration also, right? So that is what India has agreed. India has agreed that they will open 14 of its nuclear power plants for IAEA inspection, right? Then India has signed an agreement with America for transfer of nuclear material in 2006, right? In spite of the fact that this is a major achievement for India. Why? Because in spite of the fact that India has not signed NPT. in spite of the fact that this is a major foreign policy achievement for India. In those days, Manmohan Singh government, they did not know how to project their successes, achievements. Otherwise, if this is the present government, it would have said Atmanirbhar nuclear, right? Here Atma is of America, American Atmanirbhar nuclear. That is how the government would have also projected it. It was a major success because it has ended the nuclear boycott of America. Once America has ended the nuclear boycott, automatically rest of the countries also have decided. They were also willing. And the latest country to join the race was Japan. Under Japanese constitution, they cannot provide any nuclear technology or for that have any kind of security cooperation or defense cooperation if a country possesses nuclear weapons. And Japan also has amended, and it has also agreed to have nuclear cooperation with India also for civilian purposes, along with Australia also, because Australia has huge amount of uranium reserves. So these are all some of the foreign policy achievements of India. Proceeding further, right? In August 2008, IAEA has approved. In August 2008, IAEA has approved India Safeguards Agreement. It has approved India Safeguards Agreement. India Safeguards Agreement. Please remember, all these were approved in spite of the fact that India is not a member of NPT. When India got this kind of concessions, Pakistan also has started. When India is getting, why not Pakistan also? Obviously, nobody takes them seriously, including Pakistan itself, right? And what is the India was granted waiver at the Nuclear Supplies Group meeting held in Vienna. India was granted waiver, WAIVER, at the Nuclear Supplies Group held in Vienna. India was granted waiver. India safeguards. As I said, India was not a member of NPT. In spite of the fact that we are not member of NPT, we have been granted waiver. And this was opposed by countries like Austria, Ireland and New Zealand. This was opposed by countries like Austria, Ireland and New Zealand. Why they have opposed this waiver? Why Austria, Ireland and New Zealand have opposed this kind of exemption given to India? Because India has not signed either NPT or CTBT. India has not signed either NPT or CTBT. They said that how can you grant one-time exception to India? I said it is one of the major foreign policy achievements of India, in spite of the fact that India is not a signatory to both of these agreements. Why they have granted a one-time exemption for India? They have recognized the fact that India is a responsible nuclear power, and India has not transferred its nuclear technology to any other countries, and India is using its nuclear power only for peaceful purposes. And more importantly, India also has a no first use policy. For all these reasons, India was granted. And the most important reason why India was granted this kind of exemption was economic reasons. All those countries, Germany, France, America, India already had a very good strategic relationship with Russia. All these countries, Germany, France and America, wanted to benefit out of transfer of this civilian nuclear technology to India. Their multinational companies were putting a lot of pressure on their governments, right? That is why India was granted. And US Congress also has approved it later in October 2008. Of course, US also has granted this its approval. Then China has strongly opposed. As usual, China has strongly opposed this exemption given to India. And as a retaliatory measure, what did China do? China has expanded its nuclear cooperation agreement with Pakistan in 2010. Right? China has extended its cooperation to nuclear cooperation with Pakistan. right? Next, till 2011, Australia strongly opposed transfer of nuclear technology, especially uranium, to India. In November 2011, Australia has agreed to transfer uranium, to export uranium to India. Australia has agreed in November 2011. Right? In 2014, Australia has signed an agreement with India for export of uranium. 2014. Right? So that is what about India's engagement with NPT. So in 2014, Australia has signed an agreement with India for export of uranium, right? So that is what it is. Now let us look at one more country, Iran. What is the problem with Iran? Because it is there in the news in recent times. Iran. What is the issue with Iran? In 1970, Iran has signed NPT. In 1970, it has signed NPT, but it was found that it did not comply with NPT Safeguards Agreement. It was found that it did not comply with NPT Safeguards Agreement. It was found that Iran did not comply with NPT Safeguards Agreement. It did not report Iran where Iran had failed. First, it did not report import of nuclear material. It did not report import of nuclear material. It also did not report processing of this imported material. And it also did not report the storage of this nuclear material. It did not report. This was in 2013. 2013, this was what it was found. Then negotiations took place between European Union and Iran. Negotiations took place between European Union and Iran. Iran had agreed to temporarily suspend its enrichment program. Right? Iran has agreed to temporarily suspend its enrichment program. Then, but later it was found that Iran continued with its enrichment program. In 2006, Security Council, UN Security Council has passed a resolution demanding in 2006, United Nations Security Council has passed a resolution demanding suspension of Iran for its enrichment. suspension of Iran. Later sanctions were also imposed. Later sanctions were also imposed for its enrichment program. Enrichment, right? Nuclear enrichment program. Security Council has passed a resolution demanding suspension of Iran for its enrichment program. Right? Is it fine? Right. Very good. Beyond this, I cannot do much. Right? Beyond this, I will have to impose sanctions on you. And later, what did America do? Along with European Union, America has started imposing economic sanctions on Iran. Economic sanctions on Iran. Right now, it is being continued. The sanctions on Iran. And America and European Union are demanding that Iran must open its nuclear facilities to IAEA. Because it is said that clandestinely, Iran is continuing with its nuclear enrichment program. It is continuing with its nuclear enrichment program. Pardon? Yeah. Clandestinely, it was believed by the European powers along with America that Iran is continuing with its enrichment program. That is the reason why severe economic sanctions have been imposed on Iran to stop it from continuing with its right enrichment program. So this is what it is. I think we can stop it with here today. Tomorrow we will look at other countries and also the present status of NPT. Tomorrow we'll look at other countries and the present status of NPT, and also we'll see how to make this NPT more effective. That is what we will see tomorrow, right? So that is it. We can come back to our class, what we were discussing. Yes. Right. You are asking me to teach economics. Herbert Simon. I will discuss. I'll just come back and we'll discuss. Right. So the question here is intra-generational and intergenerational equity in terms of public borrowings. That is what the question it is. Intergenerational, as we have seen, we are compromising with the needs of future generations, while indiscriminately borrowing to satisfy the desires of a present generation. Right? Future generations will not have any much of freedom or leeway when it comes to taking loans, because they will be spending all that time only on repaying the old debt. So what, and when it comes to intra-generational equity, what is this intra-generational equity? When you talk about these public debt, what do you mean by intra-generational equity? Anyone? As some of you have studied economy left, right and center, right? What is intra-generational equity? Pardon? What do you mean by then intra-generational equity? What do you mean by that? How do you link the difference between rich and poor to public debt?